Get ready to witness a computer nightmare. My subscriber bought a $230 gaming PC secondhand thinking that he scored a killer deal. But little did he know, it was a scammer's trap. The reservoir is cracked, fluids are leaking everywhere, and there is dirt on every single inch. Can we rescue this disaster and turn it into a gaming beast? Or is this PC too far gone? Let's dive into the chaos and see what we can do. Now, with all of the hardware out of the case, it is quite obvious what we're dealing with here. There is a lot of coolant throughout the case underneath in the power supply cover, so I want to check out the power supply to see if there's any spillage in that. Also, on top of the power supply cover and behind the motherboard, you can see evidence of coolant spillage there. That is because the reservoir had completely shattered. Coolant went everywhere. It's also prevalent at the back there, quite a bit of it. So I don't think we're going to be able to remove a lot of the staining, but I think we'll be able to remove a lot of the coloring in the case and clean it up as best as we can. So right now we're going to take this outside, give it a bit of a hose down, and then we'll put a special solution on it which will hopefully eat up a lot of that sort of staining and hopefully clean it up. Let's get to it. We are completely done with the case and it's cleaned up really well. Now, obviously, we can't do much about the scratches unless there's a bit of paint work or something done, but you'd have to paint the whole case anyway, otherwise you'd see different shades of black patches. We've cleaned up all of the coolant and all of the dust. There is a little bit of staining from the coolant being sitting there for so long. There's not much we can do about that. We've tried our best to remove that, but we did inform the client that sometimes it's not going to be possible to remove some stains just because of how long and how much has been sitting there. Onto the motherboard now, and this is an X58 EVGA motherboard. Not too sure of the CPU, and it is DDR3 RAM. Now, this motherboard is absolutely caked with dust, and there's evidence of coolant spillage all over the PCIe lanes and all over the capacitors and underneath a few heat sinks. So we're gonna have to do a deep dive here. Not only that, but we're going to be taking the water blocks apart because this system is so old, we don't know if there's any corrosion or anything inside or any buildup and gunk. So we wanna completely clean clean that out, replace all the thermal paste, and get it looking brand new. Let's get into it. clean, let's take you guys through a walkthrough of what we have here. So we've got 2 hard drives and 1 SSD. Those, for the most part, were fairly clean. It was just a little dust that we had to remove from them. This is DDR3, each stick being 2 gigabytes, and we have 6 sticks in total. We've not yet tested these out because we will wait until we have the system up and running. The CPU and motherboard block, for the most part, were very clean inside. There was a little bit of dried up coolant, which we had to remove. For the most part, though, there was no corrosion or anything like that, so these are still good to use. The fans, they cleaned up nicely. There was a lot of coolant over them and a lot of dust, but we cleaned those up nicely as well. The case itself was absolutely loaded with liquid. Like when we looked under the power supply and underneath all of the fans, there was so much liquid and staining, but we managed to clean this up really nice and get rid of all of that dust and liquid. I was very surprised with the radiator. It actually came out really, really clean. There's no gunk, no buildup, nothing inside of here. We actually put multiple runs of chemicals in here and it all came out really clean. So very impressed with the radiator. Now the power supply was pretty clean, but we didn't go for a deep dive inside the power supply because that's pretty dangerous. We did end up cleaning the power supply fan and the cables were absolutely loaded with liquid. I had to soak them in some water and wait for everything to dry before even going to power this on. So that's what happened with this power supply, but it's all up and working now. Now for the main components in the system, the motherboard for the most part was fairly clean, but there was a lot of liquid underneath capacitors and different parts of the motherboard itself. Now for our graphics cards, we have the 9800 GT, which was a 2008 release GPU. It was a mid-tier GPU as well. Our next card is the HD 5870. Now this was released in 2009 and it was the top of the line graphics card at the time until the HD 5970 was released. Now both the 5870 and 5970 had a lot of liquid underneath all of the water blocks. Now I actually put these graphics cards in a pre-configured PC that I already had built and I couldn't get signal out of any of them. Now this one in particular, the HD 5970, I don't actually have DVI ports in monitors. It's a fairly old card. So this one still has the potential to work, but I can't test it. And I feel really bad for the customer because the guy's 15 years old. He did a 2-hour trip with his mum to come and visit us to see if we could clean and fix up this computer. And unfortunately, these cards don't work. So I've decided to upgrade his full system with an RTX 3050 graphics card, which is obviously not current generation, but it is last generation and it is a lot better than all these graphics cards. So he'll benefit a lot out of this and it still keeps it at a budget system. We're also going to be replacing his pump reservoir combo because obviously the pump, because the reservoir cracked, it was running dry and it is now fried. So we're going to chuck this D5 in the system as well. The last component of this system is the i7-920. Now there was no visible signs of any damage on the front. On the back, however, I can see some minor burns. I don't know whether this CPU is going to work or not. I don't have a motherboard old enough to test this CPU, so we're going to have to wait until this system is back together and fingers crossed everything works out. So let's go ahead and let's get this system built. It is finally done, and now for the moment of truth. Does it boot up? We did it! Yes!